Hey guys, welcome to WhiskyWise. Me, Jason, bringing you whiskey review number 24, where we're going to review the Port Charlotte 2007 CC01. Now that was a mouthful, but we're going to get into the review. So let's get started by pouring ourselves a dram, and I'll work my way explaining what is this name all about. So anyway, with my review style structure, we'll go through the age all the way to the coloring, and we'll start with the age of this whiskey, but I'm going to quickly show you pretty much a close-up of how this tube looks. I think it's quite cool. I like this sort of style. And over there, I always like the Palate, the sort of style of the boxing, but also the content as well. And I'll also show you the bottle. Now, if you guys would like to see other further images of this, I will leave it in my blog, and I'll leave links to that in the description for this video. Hopefully that is all visible. So, yeah, let's get started with my review style structure. So the whiskey is actually aged at 8 years old. The ABV is at 57.8% ABV, and the cask selection they do use are the French oak casks that held the finest eau de vie from the Cognac region, which is, it states it just over here on the tube, and it says over here 8 years old. It says heavily peated. It actually gives you quite a lot of information, but it is very small. So it says over here, full term matured in the cask of the finest French oak, gives its name over there, that helped one of the greatest French eau de vie from the Western Cognac region. There it is. Don't worry, those things don't really break so easily. So anyway, French oak casks holding the best or the finest eau de vie from France, and 8 years for its maturation. The distillery is the Palate distillery, even though it does say Port Charlotte, because initially I think they did buy it and acquire it. The parent company is Remy Cointreau, which I think explains why they have the cognac casks, and that is exactly why they have the CC, is cognac casks. In terms of the region, it is Islay, and I'll have a map just over there so you guys can see the location and exactly where it's situated. If you guys are going to go visit for the festivals this year, have the map at hand, because it's very easy to then pick out all the distilleries and go on an absolute fun drinking trail. So, in terms of the price I paid for this whiskey, I paid $67.99 according to what I wrote in my notes and my receipt that I held. And exclusivity-wise, it is exclusive. This is a travel retail exclusive, only available for airports, well, all sort of ports. So you can get this one if you're on a boat, if you're flying, pretty much any sort of travel means. I don't know if you can get it on a train, but that'll be something if you guys do travel by train a lot. I don't. I like to fly. I really don't like trains too much. So in terms of coloring wise, this is no coloring. This is, like Palate like to say, non-chill filtered natural color, and it does specify that on the tube somewhere. I will highlight that in my blog. So anyway, let's get into the overall assessment of the whiskey. So in terms of the color of this whiskey, it is natural color. The cognac casks don't add so much of a depth to the color, and it looks quite like a pale gold. It's not too heavy, but color doesn't matter necessarily unless you're really into that. More or less is about the understanding of the whiskey. So off the nose. So off the first nosing, it says heavily peated, and it says that somewhere over here, 8 years heavily peated Islay coastal single malt. I'm not picking that heavily peated note. I don't know if it's because I've been drinking Ardbeg and Octomore, which is from Palate, but the really heavy peated whiskey, but it's not feeling too heavily peated. It feels quite light peat on the nose. And then I'm picking out more towards a briny sort of charcoal note on that one. So I'm going to have another nose just again. So yeah, more towards brine, clean charcoal before you've lit it on fire for making your barbecues. It's like sort of quite clean charcoal. Brine. I picked out a little bit of lemon over there. It was more towards like the waxiness of the outside of a lemon. When you rub a lemon, you get that little bit of waxy smell, and that citrus. That's what I'm getting from it. So that's off the nose. Not too much going on in the nose, but there is just enough. So anyway, let's get into the palate for this whiskey. Wow. Okay, so it's like, poof, that's where the heavily peated really shows itself. It's like it was masked away on the nose, but on the palate, straight away, boom, you're getting that heavily peated, very rich peat, more to speak. Actually tastes like you're biting into peat. But I'm also getting a slight briny note onto it. and hints of lemon. And this is actually like you cut the lemon, you're biting it. You're getting that citrusy note on there. I'm also picking out a slight vanilla, but that peaty note there is just so powerful. It's like boof, and then wow. I'm gonna have a second sip and see what else I can pick out, but there's a little bit of warmth coming out, so I'm gonna have a second sip and see exactly what it is. So on the second sip, well, pretty much off the second sip, I held it there in the palate for a little longer, and that's just to let that heat subside a little bit, because there is a very gingery, peppery spice which feels like it numbs the palate. It's a little bit of the ABV combined with that, which feels a bit too hot. But then when you let that stay there a little bit, the texture develops. It becomes a bit more richer, fuller. It almost thickens in texture, so to speak. And then that citrusy note comes back into play. And it's more towards like the inside skin. I don't know how to describe I don't know if they call it the pulp, the white bit inside a lemon. That's what I'm getting. It's a little bit bitter, but still you're getting that peated note, which is just really lovely, and it's quite rich as well. So I'm going to assess the finish, and then we'll come to our overall conclusion of the whiskey. So on the finish for this whiskey, I'm getting and I've actually written this down in my notes. It was actually quite very, very, very long finish. It's one of the most longest finishes out of all the whiskeys I've tried. This is one that can last good half an hour to even an hour if you're not eating anything. Hopefully not too spicy or too much for the palate, but this one does last a very, very long time. It goes right into your taste buds. It sits there. The peat sort of like literally lets itself all over. I'm picking out also the briny notes, a little bit of sea spray. Actually, it feels like I put salt and then had a glass of water. That's more or less what I'm getting. Very distinctive Islay classic, sort of Islay style, so to speak. Not Islay classic, where am I going with that? So anyway, I'm also getting like a little bit like a lemon juice. Whereas before it was like the insides of a lemon, it was a little bit bitter. Now it's sort of going to a more of a juicy character. And just very, very long. I can feel it right now even. It's still very full in the finish for this whiskey. So overall comments, I've got to do my rating for this whiskey and tell you guys whether it's worth it. So I'm going to give my rating first. It is going to be, do you guys think it's that? I'm going to give it this. I'm going to give it a 92 out of 100 because I've tried many of the Bruichladdich expressions, the Octomore, and this one, it just offers that complexity which I really enjoy. It's got that sort of aspect where it goes from being on the nose, not so heavily peated, and then straight away, boom, on the palate, that peat just flourishes and literally fills the full palate. It sinks into your taste buds, and the finish is just so long that it's just incredible. And I've tried quite a few, like the Ardbegs, I've tried the Octomores, and I feel this one over there, in terms of that peat profile, it sort of just really works for me. So that's why I'm going for that. And also the rating also comes from a price point of view, because do I think it's value for money? And that's a very big question for in this day and age. Is really products worth your money? And for around about £70 for a 70cl bottle, I think it is 70cl. It is a travel exclusive whiskey, so it's something that you should be able to try in the airports. And for £70, 8 years old, I think it's worth it. They give you that strength, the natural flavours from this whiskey, quite rich. I just love this whiskey. I think it's something that, personally, if I'm flying for an airport again, I've only got a little bit left, I'm going to be picking up another bottle. And I've tried something like the Black Heart, which I've also bought recently, so you'll see that in another video. But that's not that so peated. But anyway, in comparison for this whiskey, I think it's value for money. I really enjoyed it, and I could pretty much rant on a lot more about it, but good value for money, good flavour profile, doesn't need water. If you add water, you're most likely going to be kicking out a little bit. I think you'd be sort of diluting that sort of notes, but you'll also be getting the texture, because the texture is quite rich and it sort of develops. It feels a little bit medium when you start, and then it sort of develops and thickens in texture. So that's one thing I quite liked with this whiskey. So overall, 92 out of 100. Let me know what you think if you have tried it. If you are pretty much in London, if any of you guys are visiting London, let me know. I'll bring like miniatures of this out and let you guys try it if you haven't already tried it. I'm going to leave some videos over here so you guys can check out my recent uploads, and also my subscribe button over there, because if you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to do so, and also drop it a like if you like. So I'm going to leave also my Twitter in the description for the video and my blog, so feel free to go check those out. If you like reading stuff, check that out. And I'm going to wrap the video up here. Let me know what you guys think of the Port Charlotte CC01 2007. But I'm going to wrap the video here. But this has been Jason from WhiskyWise. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all for the next video.